Commander Jake Morrison had been staring at the same coffee cup for 20 minutes. The brown liquid had gone cold hours ago, but he kept holding it anyway. Something about the routine helped him think. Outside the windows of Luna Station, Earth hung like a blue marble against the black of space. It looked peaceful from here. Jake knew that was about to change. The alert sound cut through the quiet hum of the communications center. Lieutenant Amy Patterson jumped in her chair and started typing fast on her keyboard. Her fingers moved like she was playing piano, but instead of music, she was trying to decode something that had never been heard before. "Commander, you need to see this," Amy said. Her voice was shaking just a little. Jake had worked with Amy for 3 years. She never got nervous about anything. That worried him. Jake walked over to Amy's station. The screen showed waves of light dancing up and down like ocean waves. But these waves carried something inside them. Something that made Jake's skin crawl, even though he did not know what it was yet. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked. "It's a signal, sir, from deep space." "Really deep space, like 1,200 light-years away deep?" Amy pointed to numbers on her screen. "But here's the weird part. The signal is crystal clear. It should be nothing but noise by the time it reaches us from that distance." Jake frowned. "Are you sure about the distance?" "Triple-checked, sir. The signal comes from the Kepler 442 system. That's way beyond anything we've ever detected before." Amy pressed a few more buttons. "And sir, there's something else. The signal is not random. It has patterns, complex patterns." Captain Roger Hayes walked into the room just as Amy finished talking. Roger was the kind of man who always looked like he was ready for a fight. His uniform was always perfect, his hair always neat, and his eyes always watching for danger. Today, those eyes looked more worried than usual. "What's the situation?" Roger asked. "We've got an incoming transmission from another star system," Jake said. "Amy's working on decoding it now." Roger studied the screen. "How long until we know what it says?" Amy's fingers kept dancing across her keyboard. "The translation program is running now, sir. The alien language is unlike anything in our databases, but the math is universal." "Give me another hour." Jake nodded. "Keep working on it." "Roger, we should probably alert Earth Command about this." "Already done?" Roger said. "They want updates every 30 minutes. For the next hour, Jake watched Amy work. She barely moved from her station. Coffee cups appeared and disappeared. Other technicians came and went, but Amy stayed focused on the alien signal. The waves of light on her screen slowly began to change into something else. Symbols appeared, then words, then sentences. "Got it," Amy said finally. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Commander, you're not going to believe this." Jake leaned over her shoulder. The screen now showed text in perfect English. The translation program had worked, but Jake almost wished it had not. "We are the Zephyrians of the Kepler 442 system. This message is a warning and a plea for help. Our civilization is dying. For 3,000 years, we have traveled between the stars. We have built cities on 100 worlds. We have created art and music and stories that span galaxies. All of it is ending now." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Keep reading." Amy scrolled down. "They call themselves the Devourers. They came from the dark spaces between galaxies. They do not trade or negotiate or make peace. They only consume. They take everything, every world, every life, every trace that a civilization ever existed." The room had gone completely silent. Even the usual hum of the computers seemed quieter. Jake realized that other people had gathered around Amy's station. Word was spreading through the station that something big was happening. "There's more," Amy said. "They've been moving through our galaxy for centuries. The Andromedans were first. Then the Centauri Federation, then the Vegan Republic. Dozens of civilizations, all gone, all consumed." Roger stepped closer. "Are they asking for military help?" Amy shook her head. "No, sir. They say it's too late for them. The Devourers have already reached their home system. This message was sent from their last remaining outpost. They're warning us about something else." Jake's hands felt cold. "What?" The Devourers have found Earth. They detected our radio signals, our television broadcasts, our internet transmissions. They know where we are, and they're coming. The silence stretched for a long moment. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Outside the windows, Earth still looked peaceful and blue. But now Jake knew that peace had an expiration date. How long do we have? Roger asked. Amy scrolled through more of the message. According to their calculations, the Devourer fleet will reach Earth in 47 years. They travel slower than light, but their ships are huge. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. Jake sat down heavily in the nearest chair. 47 years seemed like a long time, but he knew it was not. It was barely enough time to prepare. For something like this, is there anything else? Jake asked. Amy nodded. They've included technical data. Information about Devourer ships and weapons and something else. Coordinates to a hidden Zephyrian outpost. They say it contains everything. They learned about fighting the Devourers. Roger was already reaching for his communication device. I need to contact Earth Command immediately. This changes everything. Jake stood up and walked back to the window. Earth still looked the same, blue and white and peaceful. But now he knew that somewhere in the darkness of space an enemy was coming. An enemy that had destroyed civilizations older and more advanced than humanity. He picked up his coffee cup and took a sip. The coffee was still cold, but he drank it anyway. In 47 years, he thought, coffee might be a luxury humans could no longer afford. In 47 years, humans might not exist at all unless they did something about it first. Admiral Patricia Davis walked through the underground tunnels beneath the Pentagon like she owned the place. In many ways, she did. The Emergency Council had given her more power than any single person had held in decades. The weight of that responsibility showed in every step she took. The conference room was buried 300 feet below ground. Thick concrete walls surrounded it on all sides. If the world ended tomorrow, this room would probably survive. Patricia hoped it would not come to that. But she was not taking any chances. World leaders filled the screens that covered the walls. The President of the United States sat at the main table, but the real power in this room belonged to Patricia. She had been chosen to lead humanity's response to the alien threat. That meant making decisions that would change everything. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia began, we have 47 years to prepare for war, not just any war. A war against an enemy that has never been defeated, an enemy that has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than our own. Dr. Simon. Clark stood up from his seat at the far end of the table. Simon was a thin man with thick glasses who spent most of his time studying alien biology. Today he looked more serious than Patricia had ever seen him. I've analyzed the Zephyrian data, Simon said. The Devourers are not like us. They do not feel pain the way we do. They do not fear death. They exist only to consume and destroy. But they have one weakness. Patricia leaned forward. What weakness? They have never faced a species like humanity. Every civilization they have encountered has been peaceful. Advanced, yes. Intelligent, yes. But peaceful. They built their societies around cooperation and harmony. When the Devourers came, these civilizations tried to negotiate. They tried to find peaceful solutions. They all failed. General Frank Parker slammed his hand on the table. Frank was a big man with scars on his face from 3 different wars. He understood violence in ways that most people never would. You're saying we need to fight dirty, Frank said. Simon nodded. Exactly. Humans evolved differently than the other species. We spent millions of years as predators. We hunted, we fought. We survived by being more violent than everything else on our planet. Civilization taught us to control that violence, but it never took it away. Patricia felt a chill run down her spine. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop being civilized, Simon said. The Devourers expect us to act like every other species they have encountered. They expect us to try diplomacy first. They expect us to fight defensively. They expect us to follow rules. Colonel Lisa Brown had been quiet during the discussion. Lisa was known for her strategic mind and her ability to see solutions that others missed. When she spoke, everyone listened. "We have advantages the other species did not have," Lisa said. "We know the Devourers are coming. We know their tactics. We know their weaknesses. Most importantly, we have time to prepare." "What kind of preparation?" the president asked. Lisa stood up and activated a holographic display in the center of the room. The image showed Earth and the surrounding solar system. Red dots marked the locations of military bases and weapon installations. "We convert our entire civilization into a war machine," Lisa said. "Every factory becomes a weapons factory. Every scientist becomes a weapons designer. Every resource gets directed toward one goal, building a military force that can not only defend Earth but hunt down and destroy every single devourer in the galaxy." Patricia stared at the display. "You're talking about militarizing the entire planet." "I'm talking about survival," Lisa replied. "The Devourers do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. If we want to live, we need to become something they have never encountered before." Frank Parker grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. "I like it." "What's the timeline?" 47 years to build the fleet," Lisa said. "Then we launch a preemptive strike. We hit them before they reach Earth. We hit them in their own territory. We make them afraid of us." Dr. Clark adjusted his glasses. "There's something else. The Zephyrian data includes information about other species that are still fighting the Devourers. They're losing, but they're still alive. If we can help them, they might help us." Patricia considered this. A coalition of survivors. "More than that," Simon said. "A coalition led by the most violent species in the galaxy, us." The room fell silent. Patricia looked at the faces around the table. These were good people. Decent people. They had spent their lives trying to make the world better. Now she was asking them to make it worse. There's no other way? The president asked. Patricia shook her head. The Zephyrians tried peaceful resistance. They tried hiding. They tried running. None of it worked. The only language the Devourers understand is violence. So we need to become fluent in violence. General Parker was already making notes. "I'll need complete authority over military production. No limits on budget or resources." "You'll have it," Patricia said. Lisa Brown pulled up another display. "We'll need to recruit differently, too. We're not looking for peacekeepers anymore. We're looking for warriors. People who can kill without hesitation," Dr. Clark nodded. "And, we'll need to change how we think about war itself. No rules. No mercy, no prisoners. The Devourers certainly won't show us any." Patricia stood up. "Then we're all in agreement. Operation Silent Storm begins today. We have 47 years to transform humanity into the most dangerous military force the galaxy has ever seen." The vote was unanimous. Within hours, every major government on Earth had committed to the plan. The transformation would begin immediately. As the meeting ended, Patricia remained in her chair. She thought about her children at home, about the world they would inherit. It would not be the peaceful world she had hoped to give them. Instead, it would be a world of warriors and weapons, but it would still be a world. And sometimes that was enough. 5 years had passed since the alien warning reached Earth. Captain Danny Miller floated in his command chair, watching the construction of humanity's newest weapon through the observation deck of Mars Station. The shipyard stretched for miles, in every direction, filled with the skeletal frames of warships that dwarfed anything humans had built before. The ship taking shape directly in front of him was the first of the Reaper-class battleships. It was 3 miles long and bristled with weapons that could crack moons. Danny had helped design these ships. Sometimes he wondered if that made him a hero or a monster. "Status report," Danny said into his communication device. "Hull completion." At 87%, came the reply from Chief Engineer Bill Santos. "Weapon systems are being installed now. We should be ready for testing in 3 weeks." Danny nodded. 3 weeks to finish humanity's first planet killer. The timeline was ahead of schedule. Everything was ahead of schedule these days. When the entire planet focused on one goal, amazing things happened quickly. Below on Earth, Katie Foster worked in Laboratory Complex 7 beneath the Sahara Desert. The lab had been built in secret, far from any city or town. What they created here was too dangerous to risk civilian exposure. Katie wore a protective suit that covered her entire body. Even the air in this place could kill. Test number 47, Katie spoke into her recorder. Quantum Disruptor, Mark 6 prototype. She pressed a button on her control panel. In the testing chamber, a block of steel the size of a car simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, solid and real. The next moment there was nothing but empty air. The weapon had unmade the steel at the molecular level. Katie made notes on her tablet. The disruptor worked perfectly, but it used enormous amounts of energy. They would need to build bigger power sources for the warships. She added that to her growing list of problems to solve. In another part of the lab, Dr. Helen Martinez worked on something even more terrifying. She was creating viruses that could target specific genetic markers. A weapon that could kill every member of an alien species while leaving humans completely unharmed. The moral implications kept her awake at night, but she kept working anyway. The galaxy is full of peaceful species, Helen muttered to herself. And we're about to become the most dangerous thing in it. The first test of humanity's new capabilities came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected something entering the outer edge of the solar system. It was small, about the size of a city bus, but it was moving fast and heading straight for Earth. Commander Nick Johnson received the alert while he was reviewing tactical plans in the Jupiter Station Command Center. Nick was one of the new generation of military officers. He had been trained specifically for fighting aliens. His orders were simple: shoot first, ask questions later. All units, this is Jupiter Command, Nick spoke into his communicator. We have a bogey approaching from the outer system. Unknown configuration. Treat as hostile. The experimental squadron launched within minutes. 12 ships, each one equipped with the latest human weapons technology. They intercepted the alien vessel just past Saturn's orbit. The enemy ship was unlike anything in human databases. It was organic-looking with curves and bulges that seemed to pulse with their own light. This is Commander Johnson to unknown vessel, Nick transmitted. You are entering human space without authorization. Identify yourself or we will open fire. The alien ship did not respond. Instead, it began to scan the human ships with some kind of energy beam that was enough for Nick. All units, weapons free. Destroy the target. The battle lasted exactly 2 minutes and 37 seconds. The alien ship tried to fight back, but its weapons were designed for fighting species that followed rules of engagement. The human ships attacked from all directions at once, using tactics that were considered unsporting by galactic standards. The alien vessel was completely vaporized. Nothing remained but glowing particles that quickly faded into the darkness of space. Intelligence Officer Mary White analyzed the debris that the human ships managed to collect. She worked in a secure facility on Luna Station, surrounded by computers and scanning equipment. The fragments told a story that chilled her to the bone. It's definitely Devour technology, Mary reported to her superiors. But this wasn't a warship, it was a scout. They sent it ahead to gather information about our defenses. Admiral Davis received the report while she was inspecting the new training facilities in Antarctica. The news was both good and bad. Good because humans had successfully destroyed their first alien enemy. Bad because it meant the Devourers were already probing human space. What did they learn before we destroyed them? Patricia asked. Unknown, Mary replied. But I can tell you what they expected to find. According to the data in their ships' memory, they were looking for primitive radio telescopes and chemical rockets. They were expecting to find a species that was barely capable of spaceflight. Patricia smiled grimly. Instead, they found something else entirely. Yes, ma'am. They found weapons that could destroy their scout ship before it even knew it was under attack. The question is, what will they do with that information? The answer came 3 days later. Deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures coming from the direction of the galactic core. The Devourers were moving, not just a few ships, but entire fleets. They were accelerating their timeline. Patricia called an emergency meeting of the War Council. The holographic display showed the detected alien fleet movements. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything humans had built. They were still decades away, but they were coming faster than expected. They know we're dangerous now, General Parker said. They're not going to wait 47 years. They're coming with everything they have. Dr. Clark studied the data. This is actually good news. It means we scared them. For the first time in their history, the Devourers are afraid of their prey. Patricia nodded. Then we need to give them something to be really afraid of. Accelerate all production schedules. I want the first battle fleets ready in 15 years. Not 20, the room erupted in protests. Scientists and engineers explained why the timeline was impossible. Patricia listened to all of them, then gave her final order. Make it possible. The Devourers are coming whether we're ready or not. We'll meet them in deep space on our terms with our weapons, and we'll show them what happens when they threaten humanity. The war machine that Earth had become shifted into an even higher gear. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were preparing to hunt. 20 years after the first alien warning, Admiral Chris Taylor stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching 10,000 human warships prepare for departure. The fleet stretched across space like a metal storm cloud, each ship bristling with weapons that could turn planets into dust. This was humanity's answer to the Devourer threat. Chris had been a young lieutenant when the alien message first arrived. Now he was 53 years old, and his hair was more gray than brown. 20 years of preparing for war had changed him. It had changed everyone. Fleet status report, Chris said to his tactical officer. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump, Lieutenant Commander Janet Lee replied. Destination: Proxima Centauri system. Intelligence confirms heavy Devourer presence, Chris nodded. Proxima Centauri was humanity's first target. The Devourers had established a staging area there, probably planning to use it as a jumping-off point for their assault on Earth. They would never get the chance. Send the signal, Chris ordered. Operation Dark Hunt begins now. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving only empty void behind. They moved through dimensions that normal space-time could not contain, traveling faster than light itself. The Devourers had never faced an enemy that could strike without warning from across the galaxy. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. What they found there made even veteran officers pause. The Devourers had built massive structures around the star, harvesting its energy to power their war machines. Dozens of their ships patrolled the system, each one the size of a small moon. Captain Janet Lee commanded the vanguard assault from her ship, the UES Razor. Janet had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in the fleet. Her job was to punch a hole through the Devourer defenses so the main fleet could follow. All Vanguard units, this is Captain Lee, she transmitted. Remember your training? No mercy, no prisoners. No warnings. We hit them fast and we hit them hard. The Vanguard ships accelerated toward the nearest Devourer vessels. The aliens detected the human approach and began to turn their massive ships to face the threat. They were too slow. Humanity had learned to move like lightning. Janet's ship fired first. Quantum disruptors tore through the Devourer vessel's hull like paper. The alien ship tried to return fire, but its weapons were designed for long-range bombardment, not close-quarters combat. The human ships swarmed around it like angry hornets. Target destroyed, Janet reported. Moving to secondary targets. The battle spread across the system as more human ships joined the fight. The Devourers had numerical superiority, but they had never faced tactics like these. Human ships worked in coordinated groups, using their speed and maneuverability to attack from multiple directions at once. Commander Paul Wright led the intelligence-gathering teams that followed behind the assault forces. Pohl's job was to capture Devourer technology and interrogate any survivors. It was ugly work, but it was necessary. "We've secured the command ship," Paul reported to Admiral Taylor. "The alien crew is done cooperative." Chris understood what that meant. The Devourers did not surrender easily. They had to be broken before they would provide information. Chris did not like that part of the job, but he had learned to accept it. "Extract whatever information you can," Chris ordered. "We need to know about their other bases." The interrogation techniques that Paul's teams used would have been considered torture in the old world, but the old world was gone. This was a war for survival, and survival had its own rules. The captured Devourers spoke of their confusion and terror. They had expected to find primitive humans huddled around their homestar, easy prey for consumption. Instead, they had found predators that struck without warning and showed no mercy. "They fear us," Paul reported. "For the first time in their history, the Devourers are afraid of their prey." The human fleet continued its advance through the system, destroying every Devourer installation they found. The aliens' energy harvesting stations were reduced to scrap metal. Their ship construction facilities were turned into floating debris. Their communication relays were silenced forever. When the battle was over, nothing remained of the Devourer presence in the Proxima Centauri system. The human fleet had achieved total victory in less than 6 hours. Admiral Taylor studied the tactical reports while his ships prepared for the next jump. The Devourers had fought bravely, but they had been completely outmatched. Their technology was advanced, but their tactics were outdated. They had never learned to fight an enemy that was willing to do anything to win. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Lee said, "we're receiving transmissions from the inner system." "There are survivors." Chris looked up from his reports. "Survivors?" "Zephyrian refugees, sir. They've been hiding in the asteroid belt. They're requesting permission to come aboard." Chris considered this. The Zephyrians were the species that had sent the original warning to Earth. They deserved humanity's protection, but they were also a security risk. The Devourers might have planted spies among them. "Bring them aboard," Chris decided, "but scan them thoroughly first. Trust no one." The Zephyrian refugees were brought to the flagship under heavy guard. They were tall, thin beings with silver skin and large eyes. They moved gracefully, like dancers, but Chris could see the fear in their expressions. Their leader, who called himself Ambassador Keth, spoke to Chris through a translation device. "We thank you for your rescue, Admiral. We had given up hope." Chris studied the alien ambassador. "Your people warned us about the Devourers. We're repaying that debt." "Your methods are effective," Keth said carefully. "But they are also terrifying. We have never seen such efficient destruction." Chris did not apologize. The Devourers understand only violence. "We have become fluent in their language." The Zephyrian looked uncomfortable. "What will you do now?" Chris gestured toward the star maps that covered the bridge walls. Red dots marked known Devourer positions throughout the galaxy. There were hundreds of them. "We hunt," Chris said simply. "We hunt until there are no more Devourers left to hunt." The human fleet jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the Proxima Centauri system empty and silent. Behind them, the Zephyrian refugees tried to process what they had witnessed. They had asked for help, and humanity had answered. But the cure might be worse than the disease. In the depths of space, word of the human victory spread through hidden communication networks. Other species that had been fighting the Devourers for centuries heard the news with mixed emotions. Humanity had done what no one else could do. They had defeated the Devourers in open battle, but now the galaxy had a new apex predator. And no one knew if humanity would stop with the Devourers or if they would keep hunting until nothing was left. 3 years after the first battle at Proxima Centauri, Admiral Chris Taylor's fleet arrived at the edge of the Devourer home system. Behind them stretched a trail of empty star systems where entire alien civilizations had once thrived. The Devourers were gone from all of them, but so was almost everything else. The Devourer homeworld hung before them like a diseased fruit. It was larger than Earth, covered in massive cities that stretched from pole to pole. Billions of Devourers lived on that world. Soon, none of them would Final count, Admiral, Commander Julie Adams reported from her position at the tactical station. 8,412 human ships. The largest military force in galactic history. Chris nodded without taking his eyes off the alien planet. Julie had been with him since the beginning of the war. She had seen what humanity was capable of when survival was at stake. Today, she would see how far they were willing to go. Devour fleet positions? Chris asked. They've pulled everything back to defend their homeworld, Julie replied. Approximately 3,000 ships in defensive formation. They're using the planet's gravity well as a tactical advantage. Chris studied the tactical display. The Devourers had learned from their previous defeats. They were no longer spreading their forces thin across multiple systems. Instead, they had concentrated everything they had left into one final defensive stand. They're going to make us come to them, Chris said. Force us to attack through their strongest defenses. Colonel Steve Johnson had been listening to the tactical discussion from his position near the communication console. Steve commanded the ground forces that would be needed if any Devourers survived the space battle. He hoped they would not be needed, but he was prepared anyway. Sir, Steve said, we could just bombard the planet from orbit. Turn the surface into glass. No need for a ground assault. Chris considered this option. It would be the safest approach for human forces. But Admiral Davis had been clear about the mission objectives. The Devourers needed to be completely eliminated. Not just defeated, negative, Chris decided. We go in hard and fast. I want every Devourer ship destroyed and every installation on that planet reduced to rubble. No survivors, no escape pods, no mercy. The human fleet advanced toward the Devourer homeworld in perfect formation. Each ship knew its role in the coming battle. There would be no confusion, no hesitation, no second chances. The Devourers opened fire first. Their massive weapons sent beams of energy that could vaporize mountains. But the human ships moved like they were dancing, weaving through the alien fire with practiced ease. 20 years of constant warfare had taught them how to survive. Commander Julie Adams led the first assault wave. Her ship, the Use-Hammer, charged straight into the heart of the Devourer formation. Behind her came 100 other vessels, each one seeking to prove that humanity was the most dangerous species in the galaxy. All weapons, fire at will, Julie commanded. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth. The space battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of ships fought in 3 dimensions, using weapons that could crack planets. The Devourers fought with desperate courage, knowing that defeat meant extinction. The humans fought with cold efficiency, treating the battle like a job that needed to be finished. The alien ships were larger and more heavily armed, but they moved like slugs compared to the human vessels. Their weapons were powerful but slow to target. Their defenses were strong but predictable. They had been designed to fight civilized enemies who followed rules of engagement. Humanity had thrown away the rulebook years ago. One by one, the Devourer ships fell silent. Their crews died without surrendering, fighting to the last breath. The humans showed them the same mercy the Devourers had shown to countless other species, none at all on the planet's surface. Colonel Steve Johnson led the final assault. His soldiers moved through the alien cities like a plague, destroying everything they found. The Devourer civilians tried to hide in underground bunkers, but human technology found them anyway. Sector 7 cleared, one of Steve's lieutenants reported. No survivors. Sector 12 cleared. Moving to Sector 13. All resistance eliminated in the northern continent. The reports came in one after another. The human soldiers worked with mechanical precision, following orders that would have horrified their ancestors. But their ancestors had never faced extinction at the hands of alien monsters. In the Devourer capital city, the last of their leadership gathered in a deep bunker beneath the planetary government center. They had ruled an empire that spanned half the galaxy. Now they cowered in the darkness, waiting for death to find them. When the human soldiers finally broke through the bunker doors, the Devourer leaders tried to negotiate. They offered technology, territory, even their own lives in exchange for mercy. The humans listened to their pleas without emotion, then executed them anyway. The last devourer died not in glorious battle, but kneeling on the floor of a concrete bunker. Dr. Helen Martinez, who had developed the biological weapons used in the final assault, translated their final words through her universal translator. "We thought we were the monsters," the alien leader had whispered. "We were wrong." When the battle was over, Admiral Taylor stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the devourer homeworld burn. Massive fires covered the continents and the seas had turned black with ash. Nothing moved on the planet's surface except human soldiers conducting final sweep operations. "Mission accomplished," Commander Adams reported. "All devourer forces eliminated. The species is extinct." Chris nodded slowly. After 23 years of preparation and warfare, it was finished. Humanity had saved itself by becoming something that would give nightmares to every other species in the galaxy. "Send a message to Earth Command," Chris ordered. "The devourer threat has been permanently eliminated." But even as he spoke the words, Chris wondered what would happen next. Humanity had built the most powerful military force in galactic history. They had proven they could destroy any enemy that threatened them. The question was, would they stop now, or would they keep going? In the wreckage of the devourer homeworld, human soldiers planted a flag. It was black with a simple message written. In a dozen galactic languages, Earth protects its own. The age of human expansion had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. Word of the devourer extinction spread through the surviving civilizations like wildfire. Some species celebrated, grateful that the ancient threat was finally gone. Others looked at the efficiency of human warfare and began to worry about what humanity might do next. The Zephyrians, who had sent the original warning that started it, all issued a statement through their surviving colonies. They thanked humanity for answering their call for help, but they also included a warning of their own. "We asked for salvation, we received it. But the saviors have become something we do not recognize." Chris Taylor read that statement while his fleet prepared for the journey home. He understood what the Zephyrians meant. Humanity had won the war by abandoning everything that made them human. They had become predators, killers, monsters, but they were alive. And sometimes that was all that mattered.